Hello, my name is Chitta. I am one of Bante's students, and we decided to try and help Bante because he doesn't live at a fixed monastery. Wherever he goes becomes a monastery, and therefore he doesn't have a fixed donation box where people can make offerings. So we've added a link below that you can make a donation to help protect the sasana and help support this wonderful monk if you feel that way inclined. Thank you. Be well.
The question you asked, and others have asked, involves truth, speaking the truth. Specifically in regards to the fourth precept, which is Musavada Vedamani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami, that principle of upholding the training, striving to speak what is not falsehood, what is true. That's usually how, in English, it gets to be translated often. But it's much bigger than that. It's much more dimensional than that. So it's beyond black and white. It's beyond right and wrong. It has multiple nuances to it. Lord Buddha gives us so many examples in how to approach speech. And by speech we also now mean communication, so that speech could be done through the medium of, yes, your voice, verbal speech or verbal action, but let's not start from there because it has begun in the mind, speech in the mind. When we go deeper into the teachings of Lord Buddha in this Dhamma and discipline that he taught, that left us with to protect and to live our lives with, involves also what we call in Pali vitakka vichara. And what that means is the thinking and pondering or the planning, what you contemplate about all the time, or how you communicate with yourself at least, or about situations. Now this is a principle that some individuals in the past have interpreted as, or at least put it under question. They said, well, how could this be? It's thinking and pondering, so they have nothing to do with speech. I think it was Jnanavira. There was a British-born, later Buddhist monk who took his life in Sri Lanka thinking that he was a noble disciple or that he had attained Sotapatti, etc. So he meanwhile spent quite a bit of time writing, philosophizing, and having his interpretation of Lord Buddha's Dhamma. And he was one of those individuals who questioned vitakka vichara as, how could this have anything to do with speech? But he missed the whole point as to how do you communicate with yourself these thoughts? It's not just a matter of feeling. It's not just a matter of, taking it for, it's not just happening. This is what we call subvocal speech. You can't hear it, but you think it. So that's what we start from, to look at speech itself internally, to see what is the tonal pitch, if you will, of your thoughts. What's the intentionality, the propulsion or the propelling action of each of your intentions? Which direction are you being compelled or impelled or pushed towards? So you see, it's already, we're starting deep. We haven't even gotten to the lips yet that release these thoughts, these subvocal or this subvocal speech out into the world. So we start from there. Now the other is to consider, I mentioned multi-nuances, right? Another is something, obviously, the speech with your mouth speaking, verbal action. But today, we have so many manners, so many different ways of speaking, communicating. It could be a bodily gesture. We never think about that. In some cultures, if you've been to India or Sri Lanka or in the Mediterranean, if you go to southern Mediterranean or southern European countries, or even parts of, well, majority of Africa, I would say, the Middle East especially, you see people communicating with hand gestures a lot. Sometimes you don't even have, or I used to admire this a lot. Like, whether in class, I was, in primary school, or outside, or I would go to, do grocery shopping. I remember with my mom, I was I would hold the bag. I was the bag boy, and in that part of the world, or at that time, I don't know how it is now. You have to bargain. People expect you to bargain. They give you a price, the seller, and then I would see people gesturing their eyebrows, like lifting it, rolling their eyes, or shrug of one shoulder, lifting it one, and then so much is being said. Or pulling the chest or the chin back, and the shoulders coming up, and your mouth, your cheekbones, and the look, the mannerism, without one single word being spoken. Or we didn't even say the word no. If we wanted to say no, it would be like, you just. So there's all these things, and some of you listening to this, some people who, once this gets to be uploaded, will laugh maybe, seeing, yeah, there's so many ways. So let's not just look at, saying what is going to be received as, or at least if I believe that it is a lie, type of a thing. So it's much more, there's more dimensions attached to it, or pertaining to this action, which we started by looking at the mental action aspect of it, right? Vitakka vichara. Because it also has to do with the feeling, nuances behind. Because you cannot have a thought without it generating something within you, a feeling. Because when you are speaking, that means you already had perception and feeling. Those are the mental sankharas. So these are not like different compartments that have nothing to do with each other. No, 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 no. They are very much attached, very much into each other's business. They flow out of each other. The grosser forms of these internal mechanisms rely on the subtler ones. It's amazing how Lord Buddha saw this 2,600 years ago, which modern day psychology still has a long way to go to even come close at understanding. So without going on too far of a tangent here, so looking at the mental quality of the thoughts, which is speech, subvocal speech. You haven't spoken them out loud yet. And then we must think about, Lord Buddha encourages us to do this in the many of the suttas, but especially the ones that come to mind are from the Anguttara Nikaya, numerical discourses, where Lord Buddha urges the listener to, to use a set of criteria, okay? Which later on, I think it was Socrates or Plato, is attributed from the Greek school of thought, and they used it also eventually after, because it was open trade routes over there and in that part of the world, so it's no surprise for me to hear, oh, Plato or Socrates, they also talked about something like this, but that came later. So Lord Buddha mentions this 2,600 years ago, how you have to consider some factors here. Yes, is this true? That's the first one. Is what I'm about to say true or false? So if it is false, why am I saying it? That's a very good litmus test right there. And then you ask again, now you turn the gaze to you, the camera, the focus back to you, the one who is about to speak these words. Why am I saying this then, if it's not true? So that's one. Another one is this thing stemming from loving kindness, metta? The thing I'm about to say, is it suffused with, is it drenched with or in metta, loving kindness? If it is not, then why am I about to say this? What's so compelling about it then? Which leads us to the third one. And by the way, the order doesn't matter. In the suttas, it's, they could be different. But the importance of these steps are nevertheless there. So basically now you're asking about the intention, which takes us to, well, is this going to help the person that I'm about to speak to, these words to? And if the answer is no, it's not going to help, then whose benefit is it for it to be spoken, this thing I'm about to say? So already you exposed it, as they say, the jig is up. It's you really saw that it is based on what is unwholesome now. If it is not, boom, boom, boom. Now remember, these things can be present or all together, or one of them might be missing. And if it is missing, it's like the ingredients, the magical ingredients of things that make up a wonderful recipe. So if one ingredient is missing, just like I mentioned, I think in the book, Mindfulness, the handbook, manual, that I have it available online, in regards to sati, or mindfulness, but it's the same principle here as well to be applied. So they might come in all together, all factors being there, like yes, it is not true or it is true, and yes, it's going to help the person or not, and it's coming from metta or not. So another one is it necessary? Something as basic as that. Is this thing I'm about to say necessary? Or am I trying to put in a filler, as they say? Filler. Filler, like you go to a party or you're sitting on a tete-a-tete, you're sitting across from another person, and you have nothing to say. It's like, I have to fill it up with something. Look at the walls, or look at the color of this, or did you see what this politician said, or the sky seems like it's going to rain. Like, was it really necessary? In fact, possibly it might even come out as dumb. The person might lose a little bit of respect or a lot of respect towards me if I were to say something that's completely like, Why did he say that? That sounds stupid. You know? So that's another factor. And one that's really helpful in this criteria, set of criteria, is this a good time for it? Timing is very important, you know. When you see a dangerous situation that is about to take place, you don't bite your tongue and not talk about it, not let people know, and then half an hour later after it's done, or while it's being done, where it's no longer relevant what you're about to say, then you say it. It's spineless, you know, it's cowardly. You could have said it, but then the person held back and they were looking for their own benefits. So this takes us to the other factor, criterion, which is, am I saying this to my own benefit or others? Specifically, is this more about me or about the other? Usually nowadays when the people are talking or speaking or communicating, including when it's subvocal speech, they speak out of a desire that is stemming from within them, for them, something they want, which means, so long as we're not speaking about an awakened person or a noble disciple, Arya Savaka, we're talking about ignorance, delusion. We're talking about moha. In Pali it's called moha, that delusion, where the heart is so wrapped up in the defilements of greed, of lust, of anger or hatred, therefore delusion. And how can such a person, such a heart, be speaking what is coming from metta at that moment when they are coming, you know, when they're drenched in, submerged within ignorance and delusion and hatred and lust? That's why to simply do sila for sila's sake, in the sense that you're just following the steps. I don't care even if you are ordained as a samanera or a bhikkhu even, and you're just going through the 227 rules that we have, and say, well, yeah, I'm practicing that. And okay, Lord Buddha would ask you, how are you practicing that? Is the mind protected? Because you might just be going through the motions, through the, you know. And that's why, again, you have countless suttas in the numerical discourses, Anguttara Nikaya, where Lord Buddha is criticizing, chastising, demoting, in a sense, in many ways actually, the prestige of bhikkhus who simply do it to appear a certain way. And Lord Buddha is taking us back to what really matters, the heart, the mind. With what is it that you are trying to practice sila, in this case musavada? Because it's lazy. If you're just going through the motions, there's nothing. It's essenceless. It appears like it's the thing, it's the real thing, but you go probing around, it's not. It's fake. Because you scratch the surface and the ugliness comes out. The moha is there. It was just nicely being protected from being seen and detected. That's not sila, because the heart is misplaced. Every person who tries to practice sila, including those who say, well, I didn't lie today. Oh yeah? What was that behavior over there? You didn't say the words, but you did everything else. Yeah, but I didn't say anything, Bhante. Who cares? Ultimately, this is not like Calvinism or other, very, we look at the behavior like some other religious traditions entirely. where, oh, you cannot do something on that particular day of the week. Yeah, but what if the person is dying over there? Somebody falls into a hole and they're stuck. Their bone is sticking out. They're bleeding. Or your own child is poked their eye. And there was something sharp, and you need to have them see medical attention. You can't sit there, fold your arms and say, well, today is the thing, Sabbath or something, and I can't do anything because my religion. It's stupid. Has nothing to do with religiosity, with anything valuable that can be called religion in its beautiful sense. The person is ignorant, is an ignorant fool, because they have become a slave to that law or rule. Whatever tradition it might be, by the way. So that's also that idiocy we also see within Buddhism. Because in all religions you have idiots. The Dhamma or Buddhism is not immune to idiots. Okay? Whether you're a layperson or a monastic, doesn't matter. So the rule itself is not necessarily going to protect you. Your mind is going to protect you. Your heart. That is the first and most important. Because then you're going to be able to see and understand what Lord Buddha is talking about in delineating these criteria as a method of approaching what does it mean not to speak falsehood. It means you need to sit with yourself and really understand. So when you're doing that, you're also practicing sati. It's inevitable. Before you say, wait a minute. Why would Lord Buddha go through so much to try to clear up any misconceptions by telling me all these steps? Like, is this, is this that, is this, is this that? Then why are you telling me this? Why am I going to tell you this or tell the person this? So you see, it's not just a matter of, is it true or not? Is it the right time or not? Is it going to help the other person or not? Is it to their benefit if I say it or not? Now, as I mentioned, all these factors must be there. However, in the case of teaching the Dhamma to someone, you see this also in the suttas, whether it's in the person of Lord Buddha himself as the great teacher or the others. Monastics, the other Arahant teachers, or Venerable Ananda, or even lay disciples, male and female lay disciples, upasakas and upasikas, when they were in a situation where they had to speak something, when they were being interrogated or sneakily being led to a trap, like a debating situation, for them to go ahead, aha, I got you, type of a thing. They would see that this person is so deluded. The layperson would see that this other person was trying to point something out or try to set a trap, to debate with them. They would say in response, or if they wanted to say something that the other person might not be ready to hear. Ready to hear as in open to hearing. But they would check in with themselves and say, okay, is this true? Yes. Is this coming from metta? Yes. I'm not trying to demolish them, destroy them, this and that. No. Is this to their benefit? Yes. But are they ready to hear it? No. It doesn't matter. That factor, if it's coming from a purely metta place, that will supersede it. That will trump it. That will be enough. Plus, because there's this big other criterion, and that is, am I doing this out of spite? Am I trying to jab them like, there you go deal with that. That'll crush your ego in front of your students when I embarrass you with this. No, it wasn't stemming from that, the intention that I was referring to in the beginning. It's not that. The intention is to clarify or clear up any misconceptions the person has been led by throughout their lives, and now they have students whom they are leading astray with their ignorance. So this individual, whether it was a bhikkhu or a layperson speaking to such an interrogating debater, was setting a trap for them, intellectually, etc., to engage them in some useless endeavor. Sometimes the communication also would have taken the form of silence. Lord Buddha talked about that as well. So sometimes you have to hold yourself in silence when you're being questioned, when you realize the person speaking to you is coming from an evil place or trying to trap you. Anything you say, yes or no. And Lord Buddha was, you see this a lot in the discourses where so many such characters came in, and they would ask you a question that's double-pronged. It's a trap. Debaters like to use this. In modern day, such rhetorical devices have been used, especially not by politicians as much as journalists, especially TV anchors and things like that, which is completely drenched in arrogance, ignorance, violence, real disgusting qualities, where there isn't that humility to really find out the truth. It's about destroying the other person, destroying their credibility. That was as alive as it is today. Okay, on TV, presenters or anchors, whatever you call politicians. Nobody cares for the truth in that setting. So Lord Buddha would see this, and he had such lovely responses for these things. Some of them might include, well, that's not a very wise question to ask. That's how he would start in some cases. Or, come, that's not a healthy way to address this. Or, before I answer that question, let me ask you this. Oh, that would completely dismantle it. Because the person has a whole entire thesis ready. Boom, boom, boom. If he says this, I'm going to come up with this rebuttal. And if he says that, I'm going to... the person has done a lot of homework at home, before coming and presenting to Lord Buddha, because he wants to trap him. No intention to find out the truth. That's ugly, that's silly, that's stupid. That doesn't serve wisdom, because ultimately that's what needs to happen. And for that reason also in the Sutta Nipata group of discourses, which by the way I translated last year, and I was so captivated by Book of the Fours, Book of the Threes, where Lord Buddha is talking about debaters, and how he says in one particular place how no wise person comes out as a result of debating. There's no winner, ultimately. Yes, one person might say, yes, I got it, yes. But what you end up doing is you create or bring about an enemy for yourself. You crush someone's ego, you crush someone's credibility in front of their supporters. Now, how is that going to help, really? So the intention was wrong to begin with. Even though on the surface you said the truth, so the truth is not going to set you free, as they say, always. It might actually drag you into even more of a mess. There was one teacher I had in the past, he would say, I remember somebody was asking him a question pertaining to this. And he said, Musavada is not always about telling the truth. Everybody's eyebrows went up, whoever had eyebrows. And so everybody's waiting for the next, what is this Bhante going to say? How is he going to, what is, what's the follow-up to this statement? He said, imagine you have a group of friends. One of them happens to be the son of a prostitute. Okay, you know his mom is a prostitute. Now, you turn around and you address all your friends, including that poor fella, and you say, you know, Johnny boy here, his mom happens to be a prostitute. And da 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 da, and you continue. You just destroyed him. Even though that, let's say, that's a known fact in the neighborhood. You just got yourself an enemy, you hurt his feelings, but wait a minute, I did say the truth. So you see, it's meager, it's a very silly thing to presume that because it is true, then that gives it the right to be spoken. No. No, no, no. You have to look at the different aspects, because oftentimes it's much more powerful, weighty, to not say it, even though it's true. To not say it. Why? Because you are looking at the other factors that are not comfortable, making it very uncomfortable, that's what I mean, for you to do or not do. That image comes to mind from Nazi Germany. That perfect image. It says so much captured in that photo, where you have a group of fascist Nazis. They're sitting there in an auditorium or standing, I don't remember, and everybody's giving the Heil Hitler type of salute, Nazi salute, except for one person who's sitting there having crossed his arms, and he's in the midst of it. I mean, they could just strangle him, kill him. Eventually he dies, but not during that day, though. Everybody's doing the Heil Hitler type of thing, and he's sitting there. That's courageous. And that's also communication, Powerful communication. He says, everybody's doing this, I'm not doing this. Why? Because I hold myself to a higher standard. I have to live with myself. And that's the thing which we don't have today. Everybody wants to copy the sheeple, basically. Everybody, the herd, as in herd of sheep. The whole planet has become that. So everybody listens to the same type of thing, the same notion, same narrative, same worldview. And if you don't follow it, then that means you're going to be singled out, like that man over there. We don't have enough individuals who can do that. People are going and calling themselves, well, I identify like this, or this gender that doesn't exist, like this. You have to address me with this pronoun. All this nonsense. What if you're learning that language for the first time, and now you finally have been able to figure out how to use the proper pronouns, and now they throw this wrench into it, and now you completely are at a loss. Third person plural. You need to refer to a single person in front of you, which means second person in the third person plural. Like if you're studying Spanish, let's say, now you're going to have to talk to this person in front of you in the second person, but you can't. You got to call them ellos. It's completely nuts. Complete idiocy, complete absolute rubbish. You're taking a major step backwards, the opposite direction of evolution. But we're okay with that as a society, because nobody's using their intelligence, their common sense to speak up against this nonsense. Why? Because you have presidents of countries and big shot, actors, celebrities dictating intelligence these days. And good luck, there goes the neighborhood. And why? Because people are not sitting there like that courageous man was sitting in front of the Nazis. Within them, next to each other, elbow to elbow, and he was saying no. I'm sure he was being nudged, kicked. Certain words were being spoken to him, nasty looks, he said, I don't care. I have to face history, as will you, but history will be kinder to me, and in fact, support me. Not now. So that's what we have today. Individuals who even use something as sila, and and then go ahead and have their own spin added to it, while their heart is completely deluded. They never consider what will, because the beauty of true sila doesn't change. Just like the beauty of the Dhamma doesn't change. It doesn't wane. If it's waning, then it has nothing to do with itself, with the Dhamma's purity that is unchanging. It's the dust, the thickening of the dust in people's eyes, to the point where it's so thick they cannot even see the Dhamma, let alone its purity, its brilliance. So the Dhamma, there's nothing wrong with the Dhamma. It's people's own polluted ignorance, polluted ways of thinking, that is, which is ignorance. That is the problem. So the fourth precept has more to do with you and where you're coming up with, from which angle you're coming from. Because it's liberating. If you're truly practicing sila, virtue, then it will be wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Wonderful in its beginning, wonderful in its middle, and wonderful in its end. Years later, you're going to look back and say, wow, I'm so glad this was my reaction, my response to the situation. Just like that man. 60, 70, 80 years later, we're looking at that picture and we're saying, wow. Some of us are.